Okay, I know I'm a little late with this one, but better late than never, right? So in this video, we're gonna see how the Galaxy A50s fared in our time with it. Hey guys, Ash here from C4eTech, and if you do end up liking what you see in this video, please subscribe to C4eTech, ring that bell too. Well, let's now go ahead, get started with the review. Since we already have a pretty in-depth unboxing of the A50s where we go through all the major aspects of the phone like build, design, screen, etc. For this review, I'm going to be focusing on the major changes and what kind of stood out to us during the time we spent with this phone. So the first thing that we actually noticed with the A50s is the design change to the back of the phone. Now gone is the generic gradient finish. Instead, we get a diagonal color shifting pattern. Samsung calls it their 3D prism design, and personally, I quite like it. Yes, it is still very reflective and it catches smudges and fingerprints like nobody's business, but it is a kind of unique look, and I appreciate that. To find the next major change, we're going to take a look under the hood. Now that's because the rest of the build is pretty much the same as the Galaxy A50 before it. From the plastic back to the 6.4-inch Full HD Plus AMOLED panel up front, nothing much has really changed. Not that it needs to, since the AMOLED display in here, it looks vivid, and watching videos on Netflix or Amazon Prime, it was a good experience on the Galaxy A50, and it continues being a good experience here on the A50s too. And by the way, if you were wondering, yes, Samsung does have Wideband L1 certification, so we did end up streaming HD videos from these services. Now coming back to the changes, we have a new chip here, the Exynos 9611. Now, I wouldn't really call this a major upgrade. It doesn't provide a huge performance boost or anything, since the Galaxy A50, it already had the Exynos 9610. Nevertheless, when it comes to day-to-day tasks, the A50s, it performs quite well. For the most part, it had very little trouble handling One UI. There were a few minor stutters here and there when there were a few too many notifications or a lot of apps were open at the same time, but for day-to-day usage, it was reasonably good, I'd say. The gaming performance, well, that was the one part that surprised me, and not really in a good way. PUBG seemed to have lower frame rates than what I actually experienced with the A50. That was super weird. It was probably an optimization issue, but I feel that's something worth mentioning. Anyway, the Mali G72 MP3 GPU here, it isn't something I'd recommend for gaming. So if gaming is priority, you could probably look at something else. Now, while we're talking performance, I do feel the need to mention we do get a dedicated micro SD card slot here, along with 128 gigs of onboard storage, 4 or 6 gigs of RAM. Now for the final big change, it's gotta be the cameras. We now have a 48 megapixel primary sensor here, and right out of the bat, in auto mode under normal daylight, it takes some crisp, well-detailed shots. As you can see here, the colors are on point, dynamic range is good too. Here are a few more samples. We also get a dedicated night mode here, and it also does a pretty okay job brightening up the scene and getting more detail from dimly lit areas. The pictures are a bit more cropped in though. I'm assuming Samsung does this to eliminate shakiness, since there is no optical image stabilization present here. Now if I had to name one thing that really impressed me with the optics, I'd have to say it were the images shot by the ultra-wide sensor. Now they were truly remarkable, full of color, detail, and even had excellent dynamic range, something Samsung has struggled in the past, especially with the M series. We also get a 5 megapixel depth sensor in here, and as you can see with these live focus shots, the edge reduction is on point, and like with most Samsung phones, you can dial in the background blur to your own satisfaction. Coming to the 32 megapixel selfie camera, we really like the images that it took. We can shoot full 32 megapixel shots, and zooming in, the detail levels are pretty decent. The skin tones, they look good, but there is no HDR in this mode. However, the background isn't blown out, which means we can actually use the full resolution images from the selfie snapper. The portrait mode shots though, they are taken at 8 megapixels, but there is not a huge drop in terms of sharpness. There are a few effects that Samsung provides here, and they seem to add a bit of fun and a bit of life to the selfies. When it comes to videos, we have 4K capture, and even here I was impressed with the colors and the dynamic range. The blues and greens, they really looked punchy, and as far as detail levels go, they were acceptable. Now we do have EIS on board, but for that we'd have to lower the resolution. Samsung has included their flagship Super Steady option here, and there is quite a bit of crop in. The edges have that jelly effect due to the intense software stabilization going on. But overall, I'm happy with the camera results considering the price range. So now that we've talked about the major changes, a quick look at the small changes, or well, upgrades in this case. We have One UI 1.5 here that runs on top of Android 9 Pie. Most of the features here are things we are familiar with, so I'm not gonna delve too much into that. One feature that stood out for me was the fact that we have Samsung Pay here. At first, I was really excited since this seemed to be the full Samsung Pay version, but it was not. It seems like it is a step above Samsung Pay Mini, but this one only works with NFC card readers. Most card readers in India, at most shops, they do not come with NFC. The full version of Samsung Pay, it actually needs MST to simulate a card swipe, and that is missing here. So it's a big disappointment in my honest opinion. Now, other than that, with the battery capacity, that has remained the same, 4000 mAh, and according to my colleague who did the majority of testing for this device, it lasted him around a day and a half under regular usage, pretty much in line with what we got with the Galaxy A50, so nothing's changed here with regards to battery. And like last time, we also get a 15-watt fast charger included in the box, so quick top-ups, they continue to be easy. Now, speaking of things that have remained the same, we also get an in-display fingerprint scanner here. It makes a comeback, but unfortunately, it's still slow, especially when you compare it to the competition. The face unlock too is on the slower side of things here, which means you're gonna often have to resort to pattern unlock if you're in a hurry. Now, speaking of sundries, we have a headphone jack here. That's something Samsung has not cut, especially on their mid-rangers. And Samsung is one of the few brands that still includes headphones in the box. They get the job done, so no complaints there. The call quality, that was excellent. I didn't face any call drops. The bottom firing speaker, it's a bit on the tinny side of things, but it's pretty loud. So what are my final thoughts on the A50s? Well, if you want a Samsung device and you're shopping offline, then the A50s may be worth picking up at 21,000 rupees. It doesn't really do anything wrong per se, but if brand value isn't a factor, then there are much better phones available, even from Samsung itself. Now, if you're okay shopping online, like for example, we've got the Galaxy M30s that comes close in performance, but only costs 14,000 rupees. Now, if brand value isn't important to you, then the Redmi K20 and even lower priced devices like the Realme XT, Redmi Note 8 Pro, they come into the equation. So if Samsung branding is important, if offline is where you shop, then the A50s is something that you might consider, else no, this isn't something you should really be looking at. So that's my take on it. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you feel I missed something? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. And now that you've made it this far, leave a thumbs up, subscribe. And if you're already a subscriber, turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon. And have you seen either of these videos? I think they should be interesting. Do check them out if you haven't. And I guess it is time I bid you adieu. Thanks a lot for your time, guys. Thanks for watching. Till next time, this is Ash here from C4 eTech, calling it like I see it. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye now.